If you were to ask me as a kid, what did I want to be when I grew up? It was quite clear. Point guard for the Portland Trail Blazers. Growing up, Terry Porter was the point guard, and I knew he was going to retire some year, and I was the one to take over. So why did I want to be a point guard for the Portland Trail Blazers? 1, I look great in black and red. 2, they make lots of money. So now we can use this example of supply and demand to look to see what happens when we establish a price floor on NBA contracts. So a price floor says, when we think of price here, think about how much you have to pay for a player, so their wages. And normally we'd have an equilibrium, right? We have a supply of players that want to play basketball. We have a demand for teams that want to hire basketball players. Well, if we set a price floor, that says you can't pay a player below this amount. So we establish what we call in the NBA, league minimums. So if you play the NBA, you get drafted, you make a roster in a year, I believe the number is around $360,000. A team can't pay you less than that. And that's one reason why I want to be the point guard for the Portland Trail Blazers. Well, what happens when you establish a price floor or a minimum price? Well, at such a price, then what we see is that at the high price, the quantity demand is much less than the equilibrium, and at a high price, there's a very high supply. So in the basketball example, quantity supply, this is players wanting to play. And the demand are teams and the number of players they want to hire. So in this case, what happens? Well, we get a lot of players wanting to play, and we have a low demand for teams. This is what we call a surplus. A surplus means quantity supply is above quantity demand. And so how then do they determine? Well, in this case, they would just hire this many workers right here. And this is the number of workers that don't have a job. We would call those the unemployed. And so an example of a price floor is a league minimum salary, or setting a price, saying that the price can't drop below this amount. And as such, it leads to a higher supply and a lower demand. Go Blazers.